Welcome to a fine gaming experience, everyone. What do you think of the new background there, Ice?
I love it. Unfortunately, we will be seeing a lot of this because this new place is kind of our new home for a while.
I got some extra side quests we'll be doing to keep it even, but oh yes, quite an interesting area we'll be hitting.
Ooh, roasty toasty.
Thinking over a roasty fire as our squirrel hairs sleep behind us.
Squirrel hair.
But yes, we got some exciting things to do today, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to switch up our weapon here. This new area, as you saw, has some toasty bits to it, and a lot of the creatures there are strong against fire, if not outright resistant against it.
And one of the biggest problems in the later parts of the game is elemental, not just elemental bonuses that creatures have. There's some creatures that have outright almost immunity to elemental effects. Now, that still means that your regular damage will get through, but anything extra is just dropped off the side. And any of these fast weapons like your sword and shield, your dual blades, all that little bit of extra damage is actually probably about 50% of your total damage you do.
The nice thing about these weapons I'm switching to as well is that it's got a decent attack power boost over the last ones. We don't have the affinity, and that will be noticeable for the damage. But like you were saying before, Thunder is a pretty good average elemental to use.
It is, and there's not a lot of thunder damage on here, but when it does do damage, it's probably going to do a little bit more than the 50 it's saying.
And a very important charm, the blight resistance one.
If you remember a lot of the frost monsters we fought, like Legiana, if you remember, it was way back, but there was oh my goodness, I can't remember his name, the lightning tail dude that we fight. Toby Kadachi. When you fight him, they have special blights that are based on elements, so like a lightning blight or a frost blight. These type of blights cannot be just ruled out by many different items or abilities. You just kind of have to throw back nullberries. So blight resistance is great because it takes care of all of those. And if you max it out, they just don't work.
I like that.
Hey, isn't that
Which saves you a lot of headache. And if you actually look where she was pointing there was the barricade we put up against Zorah.
Actually love the look of these weapons.
I never introduced myself.
Very big axes almost.
The commission's top dog. Of course, I leave the day-to-day stuff to the commander. I'm not much for being tied down, see.
I almost wish they made this part cutscene though, because they force walk you for bits, and you can run for others, and then it quickly forces you back into walking.
A lot of these sections are kind of a pain in the butt because of that.
So I decided to track it down.
It's a neat little tour though for the area.
A gap in the earth that was probably wrenched open by Zorah.
Did you find Nergigante?
I expect to, and not far ahead.
One thing about the Elder Recess that you're going to notice is that it is a multi-level area, like almost everything in Monster Hunter World. Very multi-level. However, the access to different levels is pretty easy. There's a couple places you can get to that you can kind of get stuck at, and you have to just go back. But for the most part, there's lots of ways to traverse up and down. However, it's a hot place to fight.
Yeah, the lower levels especially are full of magma and interesting traps related to it.
There will be a new item we'll be using in this area, known as a cool drink, and luckily, right before the areas themselves where you have to use these cool drinks, they'll find chill shrooms, which can be immediately transformed into cool drinks. So, very easy to deal with. They have a long cooldown, but if you cart, remember to turn it back on.
I think at one point here I will be going through an area without it, and the damage tick it will do is quite steady. It's like having fire blight on you where you're just constantly burning.
Get ready. Things are about to move real fast.
Yes, sir.
We could use a little fast movement right now, sir.
Just a little faster, please.
One of my absolute favorite monsters is in this area, though.
I find a lot of the monsters here are pretty neat. Some of them are odd rehashes of earlier monsters, but they all have their unique twists to them.
We're almost there.
A lot of your bonus missions you do, a lot of the very difficult missions in this game that you end up doing, you'll be coming back to the Elder's Recess. Because the name Elder Recess has a lot to do with what you're going to find here.
And it is a pretty interesting looking area, if nothing else. It's got a lot of the hexagonal columns growing out of the ground. It's got crystals. It's got the magma.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
And as you explore into deeper areas for certain parts of this, there's more secrets we'll unlock.
One of my absolute favorite items for your Palico actually can be found here too.
There's so many of these crystals in here, you're like...
It's all the crystals you hit your Palico with, right?
Yes.
These are huge. How do they form?
There is some cool stuff in here that we barely touched on. There are a lot of traps that are triggerable by using your slinger. And there's a central area here that has those. I don't know if we'll see them in the video or not, but they are very useful against strong monsters.
There's something that's been bothering me.
Which is...
I do use it against the very first monster we run into.
That'd be great to see.
Dying in the veil. Was something here luring it in?
Dum dum dum.
Who knows, kid? But we do have one clue. Nergigante.
You're right. Nergigante and Zorah Magdaros. We've always seen them together. It must have had its own reason for coming.
They're dating.
And not
That's...
just him either.
But the size difference is...
Loads of powerful
You know what?
monsters have holed themselves up in
Let's
here.
move on and pay attention to the Admiral's
We need
shiningly
to
beautiful
track them
teeth.
one by one.
Yes. And his windswept
Maybe we
hair.
might just find a pattern.
Right.
Of course I'm right.
Of course I'm right.
Ready.
I actually love the Admiral. He's just like, I'm in charge. I'm the man. Deal with it.
He's got a lot of sass.
He does. He also looks like he could use a weapon, but just decides to just punch monsters in their thoraxes and bumblebutts.
He just intimidates the monsters. That's all he does.
It's the sash.
The sash and sass.
Who wears a sash under a belt? Any sash experts out there, make sure you tell us, do you wear a sash under a belt or do you wear the sash over the belt? I would think over.
All you sash experts out there.
All of you. You don't know what the community may have an interest in past this.
They're experts at sashaying.
Sachet.
Now we're going to see a ton of new tracks here because there's all new monsters in here.
Mm-hmm.
But the main goal we're looking for is evidence of Nergigante. And it won't only be in this area. Every time we do an expedition that's for a high quest, basically, couple investigations and whatnot, we'll be running into Nergigante tracks if we're lucky.
Amazing. Got an abyssal barrel. That's a rare item. You also notice it says account item, which is pretty cool. Finding those will give you a massive bonus to your current amount of exploration points.
There.
But it'll also give you sometimes an extra ingredient back in the cantina.
And all these do, actually. We'll get 4 new ingredients, I think, from not only the blue barrels, but there is red ones as well we'll run into. But right here, we're going to go after this Nergigante spikes in the ground and meet our first new beastie.
Just notice you getting the bone piles there. Something just to players who are playing the game. Every area itself has special bones you can only get from it, so make sure you're always investigating bone piles and Dodogama and any mining points, because they each have individual things per map. This is one of my favorite monsters. He's just a ridiculous chunky boy. and he just kind of rotates around. Oh, he's fun to fight.
Oh,
Absolutely
yeah.
destroyed me the first time I fought him.
Now,
Oh, there
Right
we're
there.
talking about that. Oof.
Now, Dodo Gamma is sort of an upgraded version of Great Jagras. He's got a lot of similar moves, but he is all about the blast element. He'll go around chewing up crystals and rocks, sticking him in his lava-filled belly, and then hucking him back out at you. Like that.
One of the biggest problems about him is that his blight that he actually generates is another one of those elemental blights. So it's very hard to get rid of it. However, if you roll enough, you can actually turn it off, but you'll forget if you're in the middle of a big combo, and sometimes you'll just explode.
Yeah, his is Blast Blight, and it's basically a timer for a very large amount of damage. While Fire Blight will slowly tick away at you, this will do a large amount, depending on your resistances and whatnot. After, I think it's about 30 seconds without any blight resistances.
You are absolutely wrecking him.
I got really mean on Dodo here. And if you notice, I get pretty darn good at switching between Archdemon and Demon mode here.
You have to watch that attack where he kind of rears up. He'll shoot 3 shots, and he can actually bank them to the left and right of himself and can hit you even if you're right in front of him. Even if you're like right under his belly right there, you're still not safe.
I find the really annoying move he has is his Charge Dash.
We haven't seen that yet.
Not yet, but it'll be charged up with Blast Element right there. And if that little dash, and it can go a lot further, hits you, you'll be hit with the Blast Blade, so...
And Dodo's another one of those hard mode only monsters, so you're only going to find Scales Plus against him. You will not find regular Scales.
Looks like you've been hit with blast blade.
Right there.
You better do something before you get blown to smithereens.
And hits it with me again.
Yeah, it is a bit of a pain. He'll keep putting it on you.
Sadly, I couldn't hit him with the other crystal in this area, but we do find other new tracks. Something else is leaving interesting hexagonal ruts in the ground.
And funny enough, I'll say that's a monster I always do poorly against fighting.
I do not do well either. But do remember to pick up those thorns. The cutscene happens before you get to pick them up, so a lot of players might forget to grab them. I love this fighting area, especially the little rolling cliff area here on the right. It is fantastic for some weapons.
Says the hammer user. Again, as a greatsword user, I absolutely love it.
And as a dagger user, it allows us to more easily do one of our special moves.
Are we going to get to see it?
We do, although I'll show it off against another creature here.
Ooh.
That's
Now
basically it.
Yeah, the great thing about that move is the longer the monster, the longer you spin. So you can actually do a ton of damage on really long monsters. If you can ever get it on Tobi Kadachi, it's hilarious because his tail is a full weak point and his head is a full weak point. So it's just like massive damage, little bits of damage, massive damage right to the end of the tail.
Yeah, I'm being kind of brutal to him here.
That's fine. He's a fun monster to fight. He's not that hard as long as you play fairly aggressively.
The big problem is with that rolling dash is the monster can move while you're attempting it and misalign your attack. You might just do your standard air slash instead. You might go the wrong direction you're hoping for. But like Ice was saying, it's good for hitting a lot of the weak points, especially if they're a big weak point you're going down.
Mm-hmm.
Dodo is really nice for leaving a lot of openings. He'll be sitting there just munching dirt out of the ground.
But he does not like you being on his side. Dodo is one of those weird creatures where he doesn't really have a safe place to attack him. But he's not that powerful overall. If anything, probably the tail's the safest place to go for you who want to cut the tail out there. Or the face if you can do big, powerful damage. Because whenever he charges up, if you hit him in the face, he'll do something like that.
I didn't even capture him, just killed him.
Yeah, that was some absolute great playing with the dual blades and showed off why they're such a deadly weapon if you can get those opportunities.
Also to point off here is we got some new pterodactyl creatures for the area, the Barnos. And these ones will do a little spit attack and are a lot more aggressive. Pretty much everything here can be outright aggressive.
Poor Dodo.
Yep.
If you like blast weapons, great thing to hunt.
Indeed, and good for resistances and whatnot, but we'll check his armor out at the end. This is a longer episode, so I'll only go through the armor for the 2 creatures we will fight here. I'll show off everything in the area, though, that I can.
And here's where the lava area is.
Boy, this heat is something else. Use a cool drink to stave off that heat.
Keep an eye on that life bar up ahead.
Yep, no chill shroom through that entrance, but if I had gone other ways, there would have been easy ones to grab, but it's ticking away a fair bit already.
I don't believe it hurts you in cutscenes, which is good.
Yes, it's quite fortunate for that. One of the more annoying creatures to fight in this area. And one I'll be showing off later. We'll be cowardly running away for now.
He looks terrifying. He's actually kind of a chump, but he does have one attack, which is brutal and may even kill you outright.
Lava Seoth is also like his water variant, where he can have a special armor which changes his resistances. But even he doesn't want to fight right now, and I'm kind of cool with that. However...
Oh, these guys. Now, these are very aggressive monsters. As Brix was saying earlier, the problem with these guys is they'll be in the middle of doing nothing on their own, and they'll see another monster attack you, and they'll come up like little opportunists and start headbutting you. And their headbutts will knock you out of anything.
And it's so annoying, because you'll hear the little, like, butting they'll do on the ground sometimes, but in the middle of combat, when there's tons of attacks and roaring and whatnot going on, you might not miss them charging in from off-screen against you.
And the auxiliary parts they actually give you are very good for quite a few sets in here, so I highly recommend, for your own sanity, just kill them off when you see them. Cull them.
These ones are neat, having little dragonflies caught in them, while the other ones had little... I don't know even how to describe it, little horseshoe crabs.
Yeah, basically. Oh, lots of things to look at here.
I missed the one spikes in the wall there. Very easy to miss, since most are on the ground.
Nergigante has been here. We're on the right track.
Oh, it's so painful. So painful to watch. Oh, another friend.
Speaking of painful... And that is the real problem with this monster. Uragon creates his own minefield around him. He can just toss them around, blow them up with attacks, you can attack them and blow them up, or they'll just blow up over time.
He's like Radabon in a lot of ways. However, he does have a few of his own special things. And one of the things he does here, which is absolutely crazy, he did it in the cutscene. The cutscene is not embellishing. He actually will roll in circles along the walls to build up speed. Because if you see, the walls are very grooved, and so is he. So he's very easily able to fit like a big, ugly Lego block between those grooves.
Later on, when he's in rage mode, we'll see just how much that can build up. Yeah, that move is really good against him and really bad.
Yeah, safe zones are few and far between against Uragon.
That's the big problem I have here, is my only defense is dodging, and he limits where I can dodge.
He's actually quite hard with a shield user too, simply because those pods can get behind you, so it's very hard to guard certain things. You also notice that Fire Blight came from those pods, so he doesn't inflict Blast Blight, but his explosions inflict Fire Blight.
Hence why I had to change my weapon up to Thunder. If I had stuck with Fire here... I do find that a little less threatening than Radobon's Sleep one.
Yeah.
Still does a lot of damage, though.
It does, and I believe it also puts on Fire Blight.
And he's got an armored part on his head, just like Baroth does to some extent.
Oh. Good job not hitting that one. I was like, oh no, she's going to slide right into it.
And they count as solid barriers, so it's easy to really just hit them when you're trying to do a combo or such.
That's that roll I was talking about. Did you see the damage it did?
Yeah. Now, you can projectile them out of that move if you're lucky, but you have to be ready for it, and he doesn't always do a full roll. Sometimes he'll just do a quick roll into a headbutt there.
As a greatsword user, I will say that you can both shoulder tackle him, and if you can time it, if you release a level 3 charge, you can knock him clean out of that attack and just completely wreck him. Greatsword's all about bravery, though.
Right there, though, I had to cancel my attack just because he set the whole area ablaze and still didn't have a good opening.
Yeah, Urgun's very difficult. Now, with the right weapon, he's really not that difficult. But unfortunately, like Brick was saying, all we have right now is dodges, and there's just so few areas that are safe.
If I try to fight him from the side, he can do the little tail whip. If I take him head on, he can do the headbutts and whatnot. He can always roll in different directions.
I'd say the safest place on him is under him, but that also is a problem because you could have any number of explosives all around you. Oh! I didn't know you were doing so much damage to the tail. Good job there.
I was trying to hit it quite a bit, but as you see, that tail cut-off part is pretty small. Despite the length of his tail, you only cut off a nubbin of it.
Which means you can still smack you around with it. Cutting off tails on a lot of monsters actually can disable abilities or really weaken their offensive power. Rathian is one of those creatures that has... Uh-oh. Oh, good, he did the headbutt. I'm sitting there watching you dizzy. I'm like, oh no, I've been here before. I think all of us who've played this have been.
Yep. All it takes is a roar or something at the wrong time. The Flashfly variant here for my Palico has been very handy. Helped me just lock down Dodo.
Well, that was a heck of a fight. Definitely a big difference between Dodogama, and this is a good example of what weapons are good at. So people who are very good with dual daggers will have creatures that they're going to have a little bit more trouble with, and they have to find unique strategies against them. But then you put the dual dagger against somebody like Dodogama, and it just works best. It works great because it's very mobile. You just move around all his attacks. You can easily dash your way out of a Blast Blight, whereas somebody using a greatsword is going to have fewer options on how to get out of the way of his attacks. I do recommend people have one weapon that they just make their main, make the thing that you focus on, but you should have a few other weapons you use, especially when you're just learning the game, because you never know when you might find some new strategy and be able to share it with friends. This is very much a community-based game.
Especially when you're playing multiplayer with someone new, you might see a new combo or something weird they pull off. We should point out, too, this area is basically his lair.
Mm-hmm. There are some mining points in the back right corner. We just barely saw them on the map that actually have special things that you can mine from them. Highly recommend you come here, even if Ergon's in, just to get what's in here, because there's some really useful items. Oh, no.
At least I hit him enough to tire him out there, but he's ready to get back in action, but that's why I took a max potion there. If he had decided to do a roll at me, I would have been dead.
And as rarely as you use max potions, I'll just explain the difference between them and your normal mega potions and other healing elixirs. They are an instant drink, so much like the antidote situation where we mentioned making the little herbal remedies for you, you just pop it, instantly full health, it instantly charges your bar back up, there's no waiting. It's the absolute best way to keep yourself healed, but you can only carry, I believe, 2 max potions with you on any hunt.
2 is the limit unless you get something special from the quest itself, but this is basically an expedition, so we don't get anything for doing this.
I will say, it does say sight all monsters. What he's doing right now is not necessary. Absolutely unnecessary. But, you know, it's cool. Ah, there we go. Now, if you remember, when we were fighting Radabon, when Radabon landed on his side like this, you could actually go to his back, and you can mine.
And these are some nice goodies to get off him. They're either really good ones for the area, or special items you get off him.
And you just have to decide what's more important, doing damage or getting cool stuff.
With the daggers, if you're quick enough, you can do both. Luckily, he was tired there, but...
Oh, he's mad.
yeah, it took forever to tire him out enough to get these openings going. This area's got some really good areas for him to set up his rolls for. Everything is a neat curved area, except for his sleeping nest, but even that back wall he can go off of. One thing I should mention too with the spinning dash you do down the length of an opponent, there's different ways to activate it, and some of them have different move key sequences for doing it. If you're doing it off a cliff edge, you'll press X while in demon mode. You can press the same combo to go up a cliff edge to do it. But if you're doing a roll down a hill, you want to do it with circle and then go into your attacks. It can make it very difficult sometimes trying to set it up properly.
But it's worth learning how to do it in all those positions, because it is kind of one of your big, powerful tools that doesn't put you in too much danger. Dual Blades is all about picking your spot, and there's a lot of similarity between it and Greatsword. It's basically a more dashing, evasion-based Greatsword in a lot of ways, because you are locked in these big, long combos you cannot exit, which is kind of the equivalent of charging up for a big slash. Ooh, that hit to the face.
I wish we had some sort of invincibility move with the dual blades, though, like Greatsword had. It would be a perfect thing to slide in there.
I think that's one of the reasons they didn't want to put it in. Well, Greatsword's got terrible mobility. Like, you just can't get out of the way of anything unless your sword's away. They really wanted dual blades to be all about mobility, and I have seen some high-level players that just, you see a minefield like this, and they're just dashing all around it. A lot of it has to do with the abilities you take. If you take yourself some of those evade extenders, you can actually get huge dashes, and the enemies can't even touch you while you're doing it.
Dual blades benefits a ton from putting on skills like evade extender.
There's that few see more.
When I switch over to bows, it'll be very similar, where if I don't have certain skills, it will be more problematic.
Those are so fun. Another one of those weapons I really recommend for new players.
Ah, just dodged.
Just dodged.
And then climbed up the vines. How much do you think this guy weighs?
I don't know, but he has those stubby little T-Rex arms, so I don't imagine it was easy to climb up there.
At least he didn't do it like Kieran style and instantly leapt up the wall.
I love Kieran's little Chun-Li style triangle jumps that he does. Hop, 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 hop. I can use that reference. It's a Capcom game.
True. And there is Street Fighter armor. Unfortunately, I don't have access to it since that's a exclusive.
Yeah, I think that was exclusive to, I want to say, was it PlayStation?
I believe so.
Yeah, it might have been PlayStation. Oh, no!
Tail swiped me into an area full of mines, and I couldn't do crap.
That's why the ancient potions are great. They fill up both those stats for you.
That's most of the map for this area. There's still a bit more to go.
I'm sure they're wondering, like, what? Did you find all the monsters? No. Are you sure? No.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I still don't show all the monsters that can pop in this area, even normally at this point. We got this guy.
Mm-hmm. Just flew past.
And there's also a blue variant.
Azure Rathlos. Azure Rathlos is just kind of a more irritating version of regular Rathlos. Very, very aerial based. Fun fight though, especially if you fought Rathlos before.
Some of the armored parts on that one are quite annoying, but
If you notice the skid along the tail, because he jumped on at the very edge of the tail facing that direction, he didn't roll up the body, he just kind of got one little brief hit. But here, multiple hits right down from the edge of the spine straight up his head.
gotta time it just right and get your angles really good for lining those up, but practice makes perfect. Getting immunity to roars, too, is very handy for this weapon, so you can just go in and get your big hits off while he's taking up time.
Mm-hmm. And that skill's called Earplugs, and it has, I believe, up to 5 levels, so it does take a while. However, most of the level 5 roars are going to come from a lot of your Elder Dragons and other big nasties. I think this guy might have something like a level 2 or 3.
I want to say he's a 3. Most basic creatures are 3, and he does count as a basic. Despite being in this area. And killing me.
Any monster in this game. Like, at this point, if we went and fought Great Jagras, it would be rare for us to die, but in the right situation, it could still happen.
And there are certain variants that are powered up in many ways.
Yeah. If you see a mission that you haven't seen before, featuring a monster that you fought at a certain point, never trust that mission. Because there's a very high likelihood there's going to be something special about that monster. It's like, I could fight a Great Jagras. You probably can, but you may just want to check your expectations a little closer to the hip.
Especially if they are the greatest of all Jagrases.
The greatest Jagras. Go to sleep.
Please, like, he was injured, but that's what we talked about before. When they go to sleep, they do heal up. And it was just enough.
That was a bad situation there. Look at him do the slow roll here. Now, when you see that slow roll, you can actually bonk them and knock them out of it. But we didn't really have much choice. Good shot.
Thank you. That was also him setting up for his disco roll, where he will just keep rolling all over the place, though.
Now, he still had the tranquilizers in his system there, which is why the trap immediately captured him.
I was still being paranoid, though, and dropped another one.
You never, like, I don't care. I don't see captured. Just get in my bag. Because I'm assuming you just shove them into a backpack and carry them with you, right?
Yeah, your pockets. And that was the largest dodo, but that's not saying much for the first ones. But look at all those ingredients we got. Always worth checking out those new plants and harvesting points for the area.
Urgent.
Unsettling reports.
Uh-oh.
Interestingly, before he points this out, for each area we were exploring, we would have found footprints for these new Elder Dragons, even though we had no way to run into them yet.
That is true. And each of these elders is super interesting in its own way, and they are exciting fights with very specific mechanics. I'm sure I've mentioned to everybody before that equipping certain armor and charms is really important. Nothing is more important than preparing for the Elder fights. You should have sets just for them. I actually really like the Dodogama set. I know it looks a little strange, the leg pieces especially, with their kind of sort of slots that come out, look like you could store a sandwich in there.
Could you picture doing like a tiger knee with those?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would picture a person's face being stuck to me for a while. And it's hard to drag corpses around on your legs.
The skills on this one, though, are pretty handy. There was a lot of new armors I got from this area, but it's already a long video, so I didn't want to show the full 5 off like I was before.
Now, there are very few monsters who use thunder in this game, which is why it's such a good element, and the thunder defense on this set is actually pretty terrible, but that's really the only defense that's bad on it. It's actually quite good with everything else. And the blast resistance is great.
Everything is designed to work together, too, with the blast attack, capacity boost so you have more ammo, like that does explosives. Having ballista as well for your extra attacks with your cannons and whatnot.
Yeah, there's a lot of really handy skills on here if you're going to be somewhat of a long-range character and use a lot of environmental hazards against enemies.
Certain bow builds will love using this stuff, too. Not much difference between the male and female sets, but that's not a bad thing.
Oh, the chunky set. You'll see a lot of similarities between the Uragon set and the Radabon set.
This is quite a nice chunky set, though. I want to call it the GoBot armor, but...
And it has great fire defense, but please have a look at the other defenses. It has abysmal elemental defense across the board.
Which is kind of funny, because this is a defensive set.
And I'll actually go in as a Lance main myself to explain what the Guard Up set bonus is on this. And the nice thing about Guard Up is there are certain abilities that some monsters we're going to be facing, mostly Elder Dragons, can do that cannot be blocked. You'll throw your shield up, and it'll just cut through it like it isn't there and destroy you. Guard Up allows you to block a lot of those impossible to avoid abilities. So if you are a guard person, if you're using a lance, a gun lance, or even want to get a little dangerous with your sword and shield or charge blade, this is a great weapon, or this is a great set for you to kind of complement those types of weapons. Just keep in mind, those stats on it are just, oof. You want to compensate, especially the dragon stat.
Mm-hmm. Things, though, like Part Breaker are fantastic to use, especially if you're trying to get certain pieces from a monster.
Yeah, a lot of monsters, you need to break their faces in order to get their fangs, and fangs are usually used in some of the best armor sets you're going to get in the game. So yeah, Part Breaker is essential for a lot of late-game farming.
Now, read the descriptions for this armor set. We don't get a Dodo set, unfortunately, but...
It's just so ridiculous.
Yep. Maybe the heaviest Palico weapon ever. Unrivaled defense, but you won't understand a single thing your Palico says.
Oh, last one's not so funny. But yeah, I absolutely love the ridiculous element. Your Palico's still on vacation, though, so we're not changing that.
Yet. We'll find something fancy for it.
Of course. A lot of people neglect their Palico armor. It's not a bad thing. It's a lot of it's just fashion. Their weapon can be somewhat important, and just try to position your Palico's weapon. Ooh. Oh, counterpose. Try to position your Palico's weapon with your own weapons. If you're using sleep, throw some sleep on them. Using poison, use some poison.
But next time, we'll run into some more new fancy creatures. So I hope you join me for that, and take care, all.